car crash cases, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys of Hollis, Wright & Couch are here to serve you. With civil trial lawyer Josh Wright from the firm of Hollis, Wright & Couch and Alabama's 13 host David Lamb, the attorneys answer your tough legal questions straight ahead.
Hello and welcome in to the attorneys. Have you ever wondered how the Alabama court system really works? And wouldn't it be great to find out the ins and the outs and the things you need to know from an actual judge? Well, tonight you're going to get that chance. But before we introduce you to our panel of experts, a reminder, we love to hear from you. We have it set up so that you can communicate with us in all sorts of ways. So throughout the program, you'll see the information on your screen. You can call, text, or email us. Get your questions to us, and I'll be sure and do my best to take them right to our guest tonight. Joining me from the firm of Hollis, Wright & Couch, Tyler Vell. Tyler, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thank you very much. As always, great to be here.
Good to have you here. And this is a topic that I think is going to clear up a lot of things for you.
Absolutely. I think we've got a great show tonight. I mean, municipal courts, it's one of those topics where for the majority of people out there, this is their first experience in the judicial system. Right. I mean, they're coming in usually from a speeding ticket or possibly a DUI or some other offense. Mm-hmm. That's kind of their first real shot at see how the court system works. And there's really nobody better to talk about that than Judge Bishop, who's agreed to join us here tonight. He's a Hoover Municipal Court judge, also a professor of law at the Cumberland School of Law, Stanford University. Just on and on. I could go on a whole show about what all he's done. So it's a real honor to have you here tonight, Judge, and hopefully we can educate the folks here about it.
Thank you.
We appreciate it, and by way of a little bio, let's learn a little something about you. How long have you been a municipal court judge?
I first became a municipal court judge in about 1985 in the city of Pelham, and I have served in Homewood and in Hoover for probably close to 20 years.
Wow. And what's the difference between a municipal court and circuit court?
There's a big difference. For one thing, circuit courts are state courts.
Okay.
Municipal courts, of course, are city courts or municipal courts. And the municipal courts have their own laws. Of course, we follow all the state laws, but they have to be adopted by the city before they become a municipal ordinance or a city law. But the biggest difference is in circuit court, you get a jury. Mm-hmm. There are no juries in municipal court. Right. The judge becomes the trier of fact as well as applying the law to those facts. So I have to decide what really happened and what the consequences should be.
Right. Yeah. And usually there's no civil type cases. I think a lot of people are familiar with car accidents where you're suing folks for money and those sorts of things. That's not something you're going to get in municipal court.
Okay. In terms of jurisdiction of a municipal court?
Tyler's right. It's all criminal jurisdiction. Okay. We have jurisdiction over all traffic offenses that occur within the city limits and certain misdemeanor offenses. Shoplifting is one of the main types of cases we get. You get a lot of domestic violence cases, criminal mischief, those types of cases.
Mm-hmm. A question we've got here, what are the most common type of cases that you see in a municipal court?
Well, in terms of the number, just probably minor traffic offenses, running a stop sign, running a red light, failure to yield. But I think probably the most important cases in terms of consequences would be driving under the influence cases, DUIs as we call them, and domestic violence and theft, shoplifting.
And actually, you referred to the DUI issue. Another question we've got is about the minimum blood alcohol level. What is it? What is the minimum blood alcohol level where you can be arrested for DUI?
Well, I'll start, and I guess Judge Bishop can chime in. I think a lot of people are familiar with the .08 level. A lot of folks hear that, but that level really only applies to adults. You know, I guess folks who are over the age of 21 operating their own vehicles. I think there's some law or a statute out there that says that if you're a minor under the age of 21, is it .02 or
if you blow
a certain level?
A .02, which is really not a lot of alcohol, up to a .08.
Okay.
If that happens to you, your record is protected somewhat. The punishment is not nearly as bad.
Okay.
But we have jurisdiction over every traffic offense, even 16 and 17-year-olds, other than DUI. If a 16 or a 17-year-old gets a DUI, they go to juvenile court where the record can be sealed. But 18 and above, you know, DUIs come to our court.
Yeah.
Another question, actually, on that, on the topic of a DUI, does your car get impounded if you are arrested for DUI?
I would say 99% of the times. A lot of time it depends on who's in the vehicle with you. But once you're arrested for a DUI, obviously you are going to jail. And they're not going to leave your car where it is. There might be rare occasions, for example, if it's a husband and wife and the wife has a driver's license and has not had a drink. If they're fortunate, they will let her drive the car home. Getting your car impounded is expensive. And that's a major punishment that goes along with all the other punishments that go with being convicted of DUI or driving under the influence.
Yeah, I don't know if folks really understand what all is involved in that. It's not simply losing your license or paying the maybe standard $150, $135 court costs. I mean, there's some big fines that can be levied, and I guess a lot of that's at your discretion too, how you treat folks and maybe what they've done in the past and prior arrests, things of that nature, right?
You know, unfortunately, it's not a lot in my discretion in the sense that as society has become more and more unfavorable toward those people who have too much to drink or drugs and drive, the court has issued mandatory sentencing. So if your first offense, the minimum fine is $1,100, and it could go up to $2,100. And then the second offense starts at $2,100, and the third offense could go up to $5,000, and the fourth offense is a felony. And I guess I should point out that in municipal court, we only hear misdemeanor cases. That's another difference between circuit court and municipal court. They handle all the felonies. Everything in our jurisdiction would be misdemeanor offenses.
You mentioned the discretion in terms of DUI cases. Do you think that's something about what a municipal court judge does that average folks like me don't really understand in terms of the amount of discretion you have to decide versus really decisions that are kind of made for you and you're just enacting them?
I try to make that very plain if I do have a defendant before me, and I always make that announcement in court as a general rule if we have any DUI cases. But Tyler's right. For your first offense, if you refuse to take the breath test, there's an automatic 90-day suspension of your driver's license. If you are convicted of DUI, there's another 90-day suspension of your driver's license.
Okay.
If you, on a second offense, your license are revoked for 1 year. Third offense, they're revoked for 3 years. So the penalties are very severe for people who are charged with DUI. They lose their driver's license, they may lose their job and their livelihood.
Right. Yeah. Boy, and if they give that many chances, though, some folks just don't catch on too quick, do they? By about the fourth time, you know.
That's right.
Yeah. Another question we've got here: do you sentence individuals to jail, and if so, what is the maximum sentence imposed by a municipal court judge?
I often have to sentence somebody to jail, but in municipal court, the maximum jail sentence for any one offense is 6 months to serve, except for a DUI. For a DUI, you can be sentenced to serve 1 year for the first offense. But that is discretionary, and for the first offense, you're required to sentence somebody to jail for 5 days for a second DUI. For a third DUI, you're required to sentence somebody to 60 days in jail. So by and large, repeat offenders wind up in really bad shape in terms of no driver's license, mandatory jail time, probably lose their jobs. So it's very clear that it's not a good idea to get in an automobile and drive if you've had any alcohol at all in your system.
That's a message I hope folks get, for sure. Time for our first break. We'll come back with our panel of experts. But as we head to break, a reminder to you, we would love to hear from you. You can get in touch with us several ways. You can call, text, or email. That email address there on your screen. As those emails come to us, we'll do our very best to get those and pass them along to our panel of experts. You can also find the firm Hollis, Wright & Couch on Facebook. Just search that, Hollis, Wright & Couch, or find them on Twitter, and there you see that. They're Hollis_Wright. Stay tuned. The attorneys are coming. No ifs, ands, or buts about it there if you're driving under the influence. Welcome back in to the attorneys. Go ahead and get those questions to us. A fascinating conversation we're having tonight with the municipal court judge. Would love to have you included in it, so go ahead and join in. Judge and Tyler, as we went to break, it actually used the term hard labor. I mean, I think of westerns and like cracking up rocks. But
busting rocks, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess community service nowadays is kind of an option and a possibility.
Yeah, most municipal court jails are not suited for hard labor.
Right.
So you either get sent to jail or not.
Okay.
Community service is an alternative. For example, if you were arrested and convicted of a second offense DUI, that's the only one where you would have the option: 5 days in jail to serve, or 30 days community service. And community service would be some charitable organization that agrees to take you on, observe you work for 8 hours a day for 30 days, not consecutively, of course,
right,
and assume liability for you while you do that. A lot of cities don't allow community service because of the liability. I mean, if you put somebody out on the road picking up trash and they get hit by a car and seriously injured, and they're there because I put them there,
right, that
can create some problems. So we only allow community service if a charitable organization agrees to take them on.
I just saw someone, I think yesterday, actually on the side of the road picking up trash. So that possibly could have been a community service.
It could be in municipalities. If you see it on the interstate, that's going to be the Department of Transportation. Those could very well be state prisoners doing that.
Okay. Going back to our questions from our viewers, do you have the same rights in a municipal court as you do in other types of courts?
Yeah, you do. I mean, well, the judge can elaborate on these a little bit, but the rights you have basically as an American. I mean, these rights kind of follow you wherever you go. You know, the right, if you're arrested, the right to make bail. You know, the right to remain silent about your case. You have the right to a lawyer. You know, if you can't afford a lawyer, you know, a judge can appoint one for you. You have the right to cross-examine, you know, your accuser and question any witnesses that may be coming forward. You know, look at your file, see the complaint that's been made against you. You know, and if you are convicted in municipal court, you know, you also have the right to appeal. I'm sure there's several others, but those basic fundamental rights that a lot of folks just hear on TV or police shows where folks are copying, you know, the right to remain silent, you know, anything you say will be used against you in court of law, those type rights, yeah, they apply really wherever you go. They kind of travel with the individual, you know.
That's true. And in municipal court, since all of these are crimes, if you're charged with a crime, the Constitution says you've got a right to a trial by a jury of your peers. Well, we don't have a municipal court jury, so everybody in municipal court who's convicted has the absolute right to appeal to circuit court de novo, they call it, which is a brand new trial starting over as if that never happened. So you do have that legal protection, which is a very important right, and that is to be tried by a jury, but everything else is the same in every court as far as your legal rights are concerned. We have in Hoover a public defender, for example. Anybody who cannot afford an attorney, then we automatically appoint that public defender to represent them in their case.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Tyler, cover your ears. This question here: is it necessary to hire an attorney for municipal court?
I'll take that now. Go right ahead.
You know, it's not necessary to hire an attorney.
Right.
However, some punishments are so severe, as we mentioned, a DUI, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody coming in without even knowing their legal rights can be in deep trouble in a hurry if they're convicted of a DUI. And you have lawyers who know the law, know the rules, are better equipped to discuss the case with the prosecutor, maybe try to work out some type of deferred prosecution. But I guess I could answer the question this way, that I think anybody who is arrested for theft of property, domestic violence, or a DUI, they're much better off if they come to municipal court with an attorney.
I agree.
And Tyler, even though you are an attorney,
no, I would have
his
to
thinking
agree
there right in.
Absolutely.
Right yeah.
Absolutely.
Because of the complexities of those.
That's right.
Issues.
I mean, every situation is different. I mean, I guarantee every case, every DUI case is a little different that Judge Bishop hears. I mean, some folks, you know, they have the option to either give a breath test or not give a breath test. You know, that may come into play later on. There may be some issues about anything from medications they were taking, you know, that day that wasn't alcohol related at all, maybe a prescription medication. I mean, there's so many little nuances that happen early on in the case. If you get a lawyer involved early on, they can kind of address some of those issues, start investigating those sides, if they need to get experts or whatever, to get your case either, you know, a not guilty verdict or thrown out on some other issue. But if you wait till the very end, you know, and you already get a conviction, and you determine later, hey, maybe I shouldn't have done that. It's going to be it's always harder to undo something, you know, that's been done than to just start at the very beginning with an attorney. All
right, and going back to our questions, if you were found guilty in a municipal court crime, in a municipal court of a crime, can you appeal that decision?
Yes, as I said, you got an automatic right to appeal to circuit court for a brand new trial starting over. Right. And you know, I'd point out what Tyler just said, the nuances of just a DUI case, for example. Most people think that drunk driving means you went out, got drunk, and you drove a car.
Right.
It is much more complicated than that. It's against the law, as we've said, to have more than 0.08% of alcohol in your blood. Well, the only way anybody can know that is if you have a test to determine that. But in Alabama, you don't have to take the test. You can refuse to take the test. If you do, then you're charged with just driving under the influence of alcohol to the extent that you can't safely drive an automobile. So that's going to be primary officer testimony, other witnesses. But it's also against the law to drive under the influence of a controlled substance. And that could be a lot of things. That could be anything from marijuana to cocaine to prescription drugs, like Vicodin or Percodan.
Right.
It's against the law to drive under the influence of a combined alcohol and controlled substance, so that a person might drink 2 beers and not be too intoxicated to safely drive. But if they, I guess, smoke a joint or 2 of marijuana along with those 2 beers, then that certainly puts them in a situation where they can't safely drive.
Right.
And what a lot of people don't realize is it doesn't really have to be those 4 things. It's against the law to drive in Alabama under the influence of any substance that creates a situation where you can't safely drive an automobile. That could be sniffing glue. That could be somebody taking Benadryl and getting so drowsy they can't safely drive. There's no defense to say, well, I didn't drink any alcohol. I just took some medication. So it's complicated, for sure.
Need good legal advice. We have one more segment coming up here on the attorneys as we head to break. Let me remind you, be sure and check in with us. The information is on your screen throughout the show. Also want to tell you that you can find the firm of Hollis, Wright & Couch on Facebook and Twitter. Search the term Hollis, Wright & Couch to find them on Facebook, and Twitter you'll find them at Hollis_Wright. Stay tuned. More attorneys coming right up. Understanding the Alabama court system. Boy, the questions are coming fast and furious, but still have one final segment remaining. If you want to get yours to us, just get in touch with you. We would love to hear you. Just a few minutes remaining in this segment, and getting questions not only from our viewers, but also from the folks in the booth. So let's try to get to all of them that we can. Right. Speeding tickets are a very common offense. Is there ever a time when speeding is allowed?
Under the Alabama statute, there's only one defense for speeding. And that is if you have to speed up over the speed limit to pass an emergency vehicle. That would be a fire truck or a police or an ambulance. If you have to speed up and you were to actually get stopped for that, that's the only legal defense for speeding.
So if there's lights behind you and they're trying to get somewhere, you can speed up to get out of their way.
Okay.
That's basically it. Right. Other than that, I think people probably tried to use every excuse in the world. I'm sure judges heard.
Over my 20 or so years, I've heard every excuse imaginable.
Yeah, well, I mean,
sure, there's some good ones. Yeah.
So, the classic speeding your wife to the hospital. She's in labor.
If the officer writes you a ticket, it's a good ticket.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if your wife's in labor in the car with you, they would help you get to the hospital. And I think most of them would.
Yeah.
So would it be better just to, if you see an officer and you're in, I mean, your wife is in labor and you're taking them, just pull up to them and say, hey, can you help us get to the hospital?
I think a lot of police officers would be willing to
that'd
do
be a
that.
good idea. Yeah.
And you see often people going down the highway with their both blinkers on.
Right.
And some people think that's an excuse for speeding. That's not.
Not the case.
It may be an attractant.
Right, and I've even had folks talk to me about it, and Judge Bishop has weighed on this before, is that, the ticket says I was going, 48 miles in a 40-mile-per-hour zone, but I was only going 42.
Yeah.
So the ticket's not right, but you're still 2 miles over the speed limit, correct?
That's a very good point, Tyler. In fact, most people who want a trial for a speeding ticket convict themselves. That's getting back to why I guess I would say don't ever go to municipal court or any other court until you know the law that you've been charged with. And because a ticket may say 75 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone, you're really only charged with going over the posted speed limit. That goes to the point system, how fast you were going, and I'll explain that in just a second. But the speeding ticket itself, many people say, well, I couldn't have been going 75, I was only going 65. Well, immediately you have convicted yourself, you're under oath. So that's embarrassing for the person, but we have a point system in Alabama. If you get so many tickets, you lose your driver's license. And it's 12 points in a 1-year period.
Okay.
And for example, speeding, if you're going 25 miles over the speed limit, and that's why those numbers are important, then that's a 5 points on the driving record.
Word.
If you're going under 25 miles under the speed limit, that's 2 points. So you can imagine if you get 3 or 4 tickets going over 25 miles an hour, your license will be suspended.
Right.
And it's amazing how many people are in my court and every other court charged with driving with a suspended or revoked driver's license.
Wow. A question we've got here real quick in the few minutes remaining, is it possible to request driving school and keep the traffic ticket off your record?
Yes, it certainly is in my court. In fact, we have a policy. If you were charged with a speeding ticket, you would be told if it's your first offense, you have the choice of going to defensive driving school and keeping it off your record if you wish to do that. Certainly helps with insurance. And so we hope people do go to driving school, but after you have 2 or 3 tickets, you've learned all you can learn. It's time to pay the piper, so to speak.
And we've just got 2 minutes left, but wanted to touch on shoplifting. Also, some questions about that. And I mean, there are some rights and some issues there as well.
Oh, absolutely. Shoplifting is one of those that Judge Bishop talked about on the criminal side of it. But I'll touch on the civil side for a second. That a lot of folks get charged with shoplifting, and they may be detained in a store, a department store, a grocery store, anywhere, where they actually didn't commit the crime.
Right.
And I think a lot of folks are just happy to be relieved of the charge and free themselves and say, okay, great, they made a mistake, I'm just out of here. But there's actually there's case law, and there's some law on your side where you can actually sue the department store or the folks who wrongfully detain you and say you shoplifted. And I know in the past, and I think even here in Alabama, there's been some significant verdicts about that. 7-figure verdicts even.
Right. Judge, just about a minute remaining.
Sure, just quickly, we unfortunately we get a lot of shoplifting crimes, and I've been interested in that for years. And one reason is there's no profile of a shoplifter. A shoplifter can be anybody. It can be a lawyer, it can be a doctor. I've had them all over time. Now there's sort of a rash of shoplifting going on for people who are hooked on heroin or drugs, and they're just stealing to feed their drug habit. But by and large, a lot of people do it, and if it's under $500, it's a misdemeanor within my jurisdiction or municipal court jurisdiction.
Well, we have certainly enjoyed the time. It just flew by too fast. I mean, we're out of time. But Judge, good to see you. Thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
And Tyler, you as well.
Thank you, Dave.
Informative show tonight. Hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. As we wrap this show up, get in touch with us. Here's the way to do so: call, text, or email. Also, find the firm of Hollis, Wright & Couch on Facebook by searching Hollis, Wright & Couch. Also on Twitter, Hollis_Wright. We'll